Mic check.
Hi everyone, in today's video, we're gonna answer the top questions that we get asked about living in our SUV. So let's just jump right in. The first question is, why did we decide to try this lifestyle?
Starting with the hard one. Why leave the comforts of a condo and a job to live in a car?
We decided to try this lifestyle because we were just bored and we just kind of wanted to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, try something new, learn new skills, learn how to survive in the wild if one day we might have to do so by no choice of our own. This time it was our choice. We also have both been working our 9-to-5 jobs for, I don't know, many years. I've never taken a long sabbatical of any sort. I started working right out of university, and for reference, I am 32, so that's a long time. Never took more than kind of a 2-week vacation and was just looking to do an adventure.
Yeah, we were just bored. We were at home, we were working a lot, and we're like, is this it? Are we just gonna sit in this apartment? There's something about that idea that was just kind of depressing. And we were fortunate to be able to work from home and keep making money, but we've been in the city too long. We've been in our apartment too long. We just had to get out. I had saved up a bunch of money from the last 4 to 5 years of working, so I knew we wanted to do something, and the pandemic was just an opportunity to do that.
I'd say originally we wanted to do international travel, but then we decided to get a dog. And that really held us back.
The dog ruined everything.
So we kind of made a compromise of how could we still do the same type of adventure, but include the Doge, and that resulted in doing a road trip. It's kind of funny because before we went all in and decided to do this, we lightly looked at places to buy in the GTA. We actually don't really want to settle down yet. We don't really even know where we want to settle. So part of this trip was also, let's go explore different places in Canada and see where we actually want to settle down and where we want to live longer term.
Yeah, when we started planning the trip, we were 30. That was 2 years ago, and part of it was the age thing. We're like, well, we're not going to want to live out of our car when we're 40. We think for us, this is the last age to really do it comfortably, because it just gets so much harder as you get older. You're sore, your back's a little messed up, but we knew that we just had to try it, otherwise we're just never gonna do it. So we stuffed the dog into the car against his will, because his back is good. He's young, he's healthy, but our days may be numbered. Why do we choose to go with an SUV over a van or an RV?
For renting an RV, and I think for 3 months, it was 60 grand.
Yeah, you're gonna notice a trend for a lot of these answers is money. People ask us, obviously an RV is more comfortable. Obviously, even a van is more comfortable. But if you have the budget, go with an RV. It's gonna make life a lot better.
On top of budget, we also weren't just trying this out. We weren't making a complete lifestyle commitment. We weren't oh, we're gonna be van lifers now. We just wanted to go on a road trip. So a big priority for us was, hey, we need a car anyway, so let's get something that we can also drive in the city and just use as our day-to-day car, as well as it being an adventure car.
Yeah, there's this association people have with vans, a bum lifestyle, living in a van down by the river, but vans are actually expensive. A good outfitted van is a big investment, especially if you're not sure if you want to do this kind of lifestyle, which is why we're well, let's get the SUV, and then if we like that and it goes well, then maybe we can consider a van or an Airstream or something more sophisticated. But yeah, vans are not cheap, and we didn't want to commit that much right away.
Vans also don't look that great, so we wanted something that looked pretty cool.
There's some vans that look kind of sick. They just cost a lot.
Are there any? Tell me if you think there's a van that looks as sick as the 4Runner.
Oh, now you're getting into preference.
Of course, it would have given us a lot more room and comfort, but after the trip was over, we didn't want to have a van in the city.
Initially, we wanted to go off-road. We had this fantasy of having this rugged off-road car and just going on these crazy bumps and everything, something that a van wouldn't be able to do.
We've still explored off-road, we just haven't really found amazing places, but it's more just having the ability to do so. We didn't want to be limited by the fact that our car was not good enough to be able to go off-road. We want something that was really safe and reliable, that we didn't feel like we would get stuck anywhere. We're still happy with the purchase, and even though we haven't used the off-road capabilities as much as we would have wanted to, we still have used them, and they have come in handy. I think it's just good insurance based on what we set out to do, to have those features available if we need to use them.
Yeah. Do I wish it had a bathroom? Yeah. We gave up a lot of comfort by going SUV versus camper van or RV, because Those are like actual moving houses. The SUV is still just a car. Cars are not really designed to be lived in the way an RV was. But for you, you'd have to really think about your budget and your comfort level and how fucked up your back is. I don't know, like everyone has their own physical needs, so it's really a decision for you. But obviously the answer, again, money.
Did we consider getting a trailer? So we kind of toyed with the idea of getting a trailer when we started to get really uncomfortable in our SUV setup, and it would just give us so much more space to work with. Ultimately, price.
The whole video can just be summed up with money. It's just like, the answer is just money. You don't have to watch the rest.
In order to have a trailer that can go off-road, you have to outfit it with like specific wheels, and that also costs more money. But also, again, we're not committing to this lifestyle, so it wouldn't have been a good investment, at least at this point in time. Like, yes, it would have made our trip a lot more comfortable, and I guess, yes, we could resell the trailer. Again, one of the main priorities for us was to be as nimble as possible. Having more things, you have extra points of failure. So if something happened to the trailer and that was now the actual home, we kind of be screwed.
And even city driving, just like maneuvering around, lugging pulling a literal wagon. It's like finding good parking spots is harder. Going to lookout points that are kind of narrow is harder. It's tempting, but I think not having it forces you to really be essential with the items that you need and more conscious of how much stuff you're really going to bring along with you. Why did we choose to sleep in the car rather than a rooftop tent? So you might have seen this with other van life YouTubers. A lot of people actually sleep on top of their car. They have like this pack that lives on the roof of their car and it opens up into a tent. And sometimes in the winter, they have like a heater in there. And that's a very viable option because some people want to keep the inside of their car very clean, or some people just already have so much shit in there that they don't have the space to sleep in the car. For example, they might not have a platform in the car, so they have the fridge in their car and their power station, all their supplies and equipment.
We knew we needed storage, and the best place to put storage was on top of the car. I think it's more feasible to sleep in a rooftop tent when you're one person, but when you're two people and a dog, you're bringing a lot of shit with you. So we needed somewhere to put that shit. We got the biggest size Thule, and that is on our roof. So it was never a consideration to get a rooftop tent. I think we did expect that we were sleeping in the car the majority of the time. I like to be comfortable, or as comfortable as possible.
You don't have to set up the inside of the car. You can just go to sleep. People that have a rooftop tent, they do primarily nature stuff. We had expected to have to sleep in like Walmart parking lots and side streets and things like that, where it's really bait to set up like a rooftop tent in a Walmart parking lot. It's easier to just crawl into your car. It's more stealth. And the last reason I'd say is because of all the extra shit we put on our car. We had the shower system, we had the awning in there. I don't know how that would have worked with the tent there because we wanted the full like outdoor rig experience. So that's why we just ended up cramming ourselves into the car. And there's days that I sleep in there, I'm like, was this worth it? Because it kind of sucks. It's not the most comfortable solution, but it is the most convenient in terms of like setup and mobility.
But we do have an SUV tent. Thank you, Jin, for suggesting it to us, because I think that was a complete lifesaver in the summer. The SUV tent attaches to the hatch, and it really extends our living space since we sleep in the car. So it kind of gives us a living room, and we have slept in there. I just spat, and it was so big, I feel like the camera got it. We also slept in there, and it got really cold one time, and I cried because it was really cold. So I think we got the best of both worlds by having a sleeping platform and being able to sleep in our car, but then also having the SUV tent and being able to sleep in a tent when we want to.
Can you imagine that Walmart parking lot guy like going around like knocking on our rooftop tent like with a stick, just like prodding at it?
Us?
It's like you guys aren't even trying to pretend you're not camping.
Can you imagine Ezra being in the tent and just consistently barking at every single sound that he hears?
Yeah, it's basically like being outside.
You can't be stealth in a rooftop tent.
Can't be stealth.
Do you still work remotely while on the road, or did you do this all from savings? No, we quit our jobs and we did save a bunch of money so that we could do this. As I mentioned, we wanted this to be an adventure, and it's not much of an adventure if you're like still working your job.
I think you can do this while working your job if you have a comfortable working space, aka that RV or camper van that we just talked about, where you have a desk, you have a monitor, you have a base level of comfort that you need to actually do your job. Even when I try to just edit videos on the road, I'm doing it crammed like in the passenger side of the car, like hunched over. There's no way we would have been able to take calls and work on projects full time, 9 to 5. I know some people do, and they're just really good at being able to balance their time. And a lot of times they're also solo, right? They don't have a partner and a dog with them. There's just less upkeep in general. But for us, like Julia said, we wanted to be present. We didn't want to be like, fuck, we gotta like dial into this call. We gotta finish this project. And we're just not set up for success. We're like just learning how to live out of a car, but also trying to work. It would have kind of put a damper on the whole trip.
This was a sabbatical for us. We had no intention of working while we were on the road. And there's just so many tasks you have to do. It makes it really difficult.
You'd get fired. Unless you're like self-employed, if you work like a traditional 9 to 5, I think this would be challenging and probably not fun, which is the biggest thing. It's fine if it's hard, but if you're miserable, just be miserable in like a comfy condo and like get Uber Eats and like take out and just be chill.
If you're a single person or you just are without a dog, it will be a lot easier because you can go to a coffee shop or something like that. You don't even need to have the setup necessarily in your car, in your van. We can't leave Ezra in the car for long periods of time.
How much did we spend per month on the road compared to back home? When we were living at home, we were spending $3,300 a month. And on the road, on average, we spent $5,500 a month.
So we thought that obviously living on the road would be a lot cheaper. I straight up was like,
we're gonna spend like half as much that we're spending at home.
We thought we were gonna save money on the road.
Yeah.
We're gonna be like slumming it out, saving money. No, apparently we'd save money living in a condo in downtown Toronto.
well, what we didn't realize is we're not that good at slumming it out.
No.
So what really drove that cost up was the campsites and the hotels, which were necessary for us.
I feel like there's also like a beginner's tax. And I know more advanced travelers can probably bring that number way down, but we were just brand new to it, and there were certain expenses and things that came up along the way we did not anticipate. We over-prepared and overspent in ways we did not anticipate. So if you're starting it out, I'd say just slap on like a 40% premium that you're gonna pay out to just exist in that kind of like stress, out of your comfort zone state, because you're probably not gonna save money.
We were expecting that we were gonna find a lot of off-grid places that we could stay at for free. We ended up staying at campsites and hotels. So we only ended up staying in an off-grid spot twice. Oh, and a few Walmarts. Bless Walmart. But
Shout out to Walmart.
yeah, shout out to Walmart. And after we did the math for camping, we're like, damn, this is literally the rent in Toronto. Another thing that cost a lot of money was gas. Our car is a gas guzzler. So, that's, I guess, considered like part of your rent.
Existence is expensive.
And then there were also some subscriptions that we had that we didn't end up using, again, because we weren't off grid. So we paid for the Zoleo service that would allow us to have like communication when we're not near cell towers, but we didn't end up really using it because we weren't off grid, and that was like $30 a month. So what I'm trying to say is your monthly cost is really going to change depending on how much you slum it out, how much money you have, how many restaurants you want to go to,
how much pizza you want to eat. When you're out there and you're a beginner, you tend to fall back on what's familiar, like campsites, Walmart parking lots, hotels. As much as we wanted to find off-grid spots, after you've been driving around all day and you're super tired, you're not sure where you're going, it's getting dark, you're like, fuck it, let's just go to this national park. And that's like paying rent to exist outside. So you are still paying rent unless you literally just drive into the woods and no one ever sees you again. You have to pay to just be out there.
And let's not forget the safe haven of Dean and Sarah.
Yeah, bonus points if you are a moocher. Shout out to Dean and Sarah. They were in our videos. Dean's my younger brother. They helped us out a lot. We stayed at their place, but we just luckily happen to have family out west. If we didn't, we would have to figure something else out, and that would just add to the cost. So if you have friends or family that you can stay with along the way, I don't think it's cheating. It's kind of necessary to like give yourself a reprieve. You just get burnt out and you eventually want a real bathroom and a real kitchen. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's certainly something to consider when you get out there.
You have to consider how many days you can actually be outside consecutively, and then how many days you think you might be in a hotel. And for us, I don't know, we thought we were G's. Like we thought we were gonna be outside like 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think that's a fault all people have, is everyone thinks they're harder than they actually are. Like everyone thinks they're more resilient, or if it came to the moment, they could tough it out. But really, like once you're out there, you realize, oh shoot, I'm like a house cat that stepped outside into the backyard for the first time in my life, and this is actually kind of hard. I know online, there's a lot of glorifying of like living outdoors and living this kind of like bohemian life, but I think a lot of those people are more experienced. If you're a city cat, there's going to be a steep learning curve, and you do need these like training wheels along the way that we've had. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you are considering doing this, I would say like give yourself permission to kind of be a slug and check into a motel or a friend's place or a Walmart parking lot, because it's hard to be out there for consecutive days, especially when it's like raining, it's cold.
How hard is traveling with a dog? You are kind of getting rid of any options that you have for being indoors when you want to be indoors, because you can't really go to coffee shops. You can't even like step into a mall when it's raining. You gotta be in the car with your dog.
Yeah, the dog becomes like your liability. If you didn't have the dog, you could pull in and go see a movie or go to a restaurant and just get a break. But unless you lock him in the trunk, like you can't really do anything with him. He's never been locked in the trunk. I'm just saying he gets treated like a prince. I'm just saying we would never do that because you chose to bring this little fuzzy companion on the trip. And that means you now can't do certain things.
You're definitely sacrificing some of your experiences when you're traveling with a dog. Thankfully in Canada, I'm pretty sure that the majority, if not all, national parks allow you to have your dog. And I've heard very different things for the US. In the US, most of the national parks don't allow you to bring your dog. So if you're in Canada, you can see most of the sightseeing things with your dog. But I think it also depends on what kind of dog you have. And we have a condo dog. And we learned that, yes, he loves going on hikes for like an hour and a half. But after that, he wants to be back in the car in his cozy bed, which is different from other dogs that we've seen when we're at campsites who like to be outside, who are sitting outside with their owners.
It's not just logistically how hard is it to travel with your dog, it's like annoyance-wise, how hard is it? Because if your dog is used to being cozy and now you drag him traveling, he might do a lot of whining, he might not be happy. Ezra was actually really good on the road. What he didn't have was his regular exercise routine that he had back home because he's in a car, long hours driving or just sleeping in the car. He couldn't run and play the same way, so I think he had a bit of anxious energy, but that's just something you have to work around if you have a dog. The pros of traveling with a dog: sick Instagram shots, putting dog in your bio. If you want to do activities, that's also where the dog holds you back. Like if you want to snowboard, if you want to rock climb, like if you want to go do things that are for humans only, you may have to reconsider bringing a dog. But if you're just traveling to travel, I think you can, as long as it's a reasonable size.
You got to consider like, where is the dog going to sleep? There are some days that Ezra would sleep on the bed with us, but the bed size is a full size mattress. So it's not even a queen. So it's not very big for two people and a dog. You have to consider what size dog you have, and do they have a place in the front that they can sleep?
Yeah, you may have to get a van.
Or a trailer. I know people who live in vans where there's more space, where you can get more airflow in there. You can leave your dog in there for a couple hours if you want to go into a coffee shop.
Yeah, it's like a house.
Yeah, it's more of a home. The other thing with traveling with a dog is you're going to have to find dog-friendly hotels when you do want to go to a hotel. So we ended up staying at Best Western pretty much all throughout because they are a pet-friendly hotel.
On the topic of the dog, what kind of dog is Ezra?
It's a good question, and we don't know the answer. Ezra was a rescue, and they told us he was a Chihuahua Terrier mix. I think this was like literally just like visually, that's what they thought. Obviously, there's no testing behind that. He does have a very sassy Chihuahua attitude. What? What? Stop talking back. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's true. We do want to do the genetic testing at some point. So when we do, we can share the answers with you guys.
If you want to learn more about Ezra, check out this video I made. How would we have prepared differently if we knew back then what we know now?
I think we could have gotten away with a much simpler build. It would mean that we'd have to like kind of fumble with more things and take more stuff out.
Yeah, I think because we both work in product, we over user experienced the build. I designed it in 3D and then we had a contractor improve that design and build it to spec, and it had all these details and all that.
He did not build it to spec.
Well, that was a separate problem, but that was our intention. You can see on YouTube, a lot of people just build a very like modest platform without a lot of moving pieces. That way it's not as heavy, it doesn't cost as much because you're using less wood, and there's just less things that could break. And as if you watch our rig tour, you've seen that parts of our platform are not working as they should be. So I definitely think we would have simplified that platform. It would have cost less money and we would have felt less bad ripping it out.
It's heavy as shit. I mean, I don't know exactly how much the additional weight added in gas money, but I'm sure it did add some. So I think we would definitely simplify the build. And with the gear, I think we also just completely over prepared. As product people, I feel like we were trying to cover like every single scenario that could happen, make sure that we would be comfortable in every scenario.
We didn't need these $500 traction mats that we spent on that are super heavy and take up so much space. We didn't need a satellite communicator. If COVID didn't happen, we would have spent months doing these mini excursions to actually get more comfortable doing this. It's just camping got shut down in Ontario. We had to just go on the trip and hope for the best. We didn't really get a chance to ease into it and learn exactly what we needed. So we had no other options. We just bought everything to be safe and went on the trip. Even our water filtration system, there's not really a point where we needed to like scoop water out of a creek to survive.
Yeah.
It's just an unnecessary purchase that just takes up space.
When you're going into the wilderness and you think that you're gonna be in the wilderness.
You think you're gonna die, and people told us we will. We bought stuff as if we may be stranded and die. As like, that's more of like an advanced off-grid situation.
Water was just like a really big concern of mine in general. And I think this all goes back to the fact that we ended up staying at campsites mostly that have all of these facilities, but we prepared as if we were going to be off-grid before we even really found a bunch of these off-grid sites.
Yeah, like we got this campfire grill set. We never used it one time because we just went to campsites that had grills. We used our wash bag to do laundry one time.
A couple times,
which we made a video out of, but a lot of the camp spots had laundry facilities. There's certain things, if you want to travel light, you just don't need them. They just take up space, it becomes annoying, and obviously they cost money.
You're not really gonna know exactly what you need unless you have done this already a few times. We were new to camping in general.
How many times did we use this trowel to dig a hole to poop in?
I tried it once.
We tried it once and we gave up. Another thing we would change if we had to do this all over again is over planning where we're gonna stay. Planning is good. I'm not saying don't plan. If we didn't plan, we'd be completely fucked. But what ended up happening is we were just so eager. We would book things too far in advance. Like for example, at the beginning of the trip, we reserved a campsite in BC at a certain date because it was a very busy season. We were worried that we're not gonna get the spot. But then what ended up happening is we saw things along the way that we would have wanted to stay longer at, but we couldn't because we had this hard date that we booked months ahead of time. And it just kind of took away a little bit from the trip, so I wouldn't do it again. And the second example is Airbnbs. We at certain points booked Airbnbs, but we didn't want to be left out in the rain, so we would book them far in advance. But our most recent one, we booked it and then changed our mind and wanted to go somewhere else because plans change, certain things change, but now we can't get half the deposit down on the Airbnb. So we end up losing money through overbooking instead of kind of playing it more by ear and booking closer to the date.
A lot of things that we booked in advance were because we wanted to make sure we had a place to stay. It's really nerve-wracking to not know where you're gonna stay for the next couple weeks. And because camping had just reopened because of COVID, a lot of people were going camping and it was kind of difficult to get last-minute campsites. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing it well in advance.
Yeah, we weren't eager to get there. We more wanted the security of knowing that we have plans and we don't have to worry about it.
So that wraps up the Q&A. Hopefully this has answered some of the questions that you guys might have about trying this lifestyle out, and hopefully you guys can learn from some of the mistakes that we've made so you can have a better experience for your trip.
If there's anything we haven't answered or if there are other questions you have, leave a comment and we'll try to get to it in the next video.
Give the video a like if you found it helpful. Really helps us out. And we'll see you guys in the next video.